Welcome everyone. We're glad you're with us today. We are recording. If you can see in the chat, I have mentioned you are in for a treat for today. We have the Rhode Island ladies with us. And this is back from popular demand back in December. Sue joined us. Sheila did a little bit, but we're going to also hear from Deb today, two moms who have just really lived and walked the experience. Their stories are not only moving and touching, but they're also about economic development, which is pretty cool when you combine both of those. Well, I am Doug Crandall. For those of you who don't know, I direct the Advancing Employment Project at Georgia's Training and Technical Assistance Center for Employment Supports, funded by our DD Council. Some of you may also remember that Sue Babin and I go back over a decade, and it is one of the true pleasures of my life to get to work with her. I have never met anyone who's worked in a bureaucracy, i.e. Theirs is called BHDDH and ours is DBHDDH. I messed that up. But it's the state DD agency, and you would not think somebody who had been in that bureaucracy would be as creative as Sue, but she certainly is. And yesterday, we got to share a little bit of that story on a national webinar. Real quick, before I turn it over to Sue and Sheila and Deb, next week on the 20th, we have Dr. Steve Hall and Patty Cassidy from Louisville, Kentucky, who work for Griffin Hamas. They're going to give us an overview of fidelity thinking. In other words, how do you make sure you're doing these things correctly, you get to the outcome? And that's going to be a fun one. We'll hear some research, but also some tips. And then our very own Katrina Spooner, Katrina Wave, will be doing a webinar at the end of the month. And we're excited that Dale Verstegen is going to be joining her as well. So we're excited. That will end the two-part webinar series for the spring of 2021. And Joseph and Tracy and I, both from Advancing Employment, will put our noggins together. Tracy's waving. Joseph, give a wave there. And come up with ideas for our fall webinar series. We're going to try to sneak a few in between that as well. But be on the lookout. And as always, join the mailing list at advancingemployment.com. and let us know in chat if there are any topics you want us to try to focus on for the webinar series. It is my great pleasure to turn it over to Sue Babin. Back-to-back webinars, Sue, yesterday and today. So here we go. And Joseph, I think you're going to pull up the PowerPoint.
All righty. Thank you so much, Doug. I guess I just want to say, Doug and I go back maybe 15, 20 years. I don't even know what it is now, but if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have this project. No, that's a true statement, Doug, because you came in and you were talking about customized employment and self-employment when we really didn't have too many people in Rhode Island that were even thinking in that direction. So you got us going. We appreciate the opportunity to be back here today to talk to folks. We're going to talk about a little project that we have in Rhode Island that's called the Spirit of Individual Enterprise for people with developmental disabilities and others. So you can advance to the next slide. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk a little bit about what our major goals are of our project, why we think self-employment is a great idea. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the different components of our project and the benefits of self-employment and community impact. Then I'm going to turn it over to two powerhouse moms, Sheila Coyne and Debbie Wood, that are going to talk about their family member and the businesses that they both are involved with. And then I'll come back a little bit and talk about some lessons learned and some next steps of where we're going with our project. Next slide, please. So we started this project about 5 years ago when a couple of folks with disabilities had approached our office of the Developmental Disabilities Council and said, you know, traditional employment just isn't working for my family member. And they really have some skills. One was Claudia Lowe, whose daughter was really interested in music, and she wanted to be a DJ. And so she had 1,000 different songs on her computer, and she really knew music, but yet she didn't have the resources to be able to go out to buy the equipment that she needed in order to be a DJ. So we worked with her, and we did some contacts with our Office of Rehab Services, and we were able to get her a grant so she could get the equipment that she needed, and that started that business. And she was the very first one that came along. And so from there, we ended up working individually with some folks. But I thought it was a good idea that since I didn't know too much about business, that I start taking some business development classes. And so I did a lot of research, what's going on in Rhode Island. I contacted the Small Business Administration, the Center for Women in Enterprise, the Small Business Development Center, SCORE, Senior Corps of Retired Executives. And I started taking a bunch of business classes that they had available for free to anybody that was interested in business development. We did get some of our folks with disabilities involved in some of those classes, but they thought the material was a little too complicated and the instructors went too fast for them. So I approached the Center for Women in Enterprise, which is an agency that works with both women and men, and they collaborate with the Veterans Business Outreach Center. And I asked them if I could take their PowerPoints and revise them to make them easier to understand, and if I could include more graphics. And I told them why I wanted to do this, and they said, sure. So that's basically what I did. And so we started to put together a curriculum. And so as we got going with this, some people heard about it, and I applied for a grant that was available through the Department of Labor and Training, which is interesting because most self-employment projects or employment initiatives are funded either by the State Office of Developmental Disabilities or by ORS, Rehab Services. So this is our state agency that basically provides employment and job training funds for the general public. So that's kind of unique. I applied for the grant. I got it. We're now in our third year of operation with that grant. And so our major goals are to build a Rhode Island self-employment business incubator, to be able to build all of the supports around an individual and what they need for their business through entrepreneurship education and all of that ongoing business support so that people with disabilities and others, because our classes are integrated, can develop and grow successful businesses within our state. And the second goal is to cultivate economic inclusion of people with disabilities as valued business owners, contributing to the growth of Rhode Island's economic development, so that people don't see someone with a disability, but they see a business owner. And that's really what I think we've successfully accomplished already. Next slide, please. So why self-employment? So as I said, a lot of individuals, traditional employment just doesn't work. People seem to go on a lot of interviews and submit their resumes, but then they don't get called in for an actual interview. Or they may be the first to be let go by a particular business. And we saw a lot of that during COVID. So with self-employment, people have an opportunity to learn skills to make money at something that they think is meaningful. They're making that choice. It's their passion. Like my passion is photography. That's my little hobby. If I was 20 years old, I'd probably spend a lot more time doing that. I'm not sure, in my first job, nobody really wants to know about that, but I would never be doing that. So what's cool about self-employment, I think, is that each person actually attains their ideal conditions of employment, and they're doing what they love. You get to be your own boss. How cool is that? As opposed to working for somebody else. They determine their own work hours versus time set by somebody else. They get to choose their place of employment, where exactly they want to work. You can work at your own pace, and you don't have to answer to someone else. It clearly increases people's self-esteem and builds a stronger sense of dignity by people having their own business card, being able to say that they're a business owner, and that's how they communicate who they are. I'm a business owner. And obviously, as a business owner with publicity and sales, that means income, and income means improving people's financial futures and helping to build financial security for each person. Next slide, please. So here's a couple of folks that have gone through our project. On the left is Emily. And what Emily says, I mean, this says it all, really. Do what you love and love what you do. That's basically what I just said. People are doing their passion. So that's her tagline. She makes unique prints and note cards using ASL, and you can see one of them right there. She has t-shirts, she's got coasters, she's a really cool young lady, and she's done pretty well with her business, and she's making her business go national. On the right is Rachel Rasnick, and Rachel is an artist, and what she says is you can do anything you want to be if you put your mind to it. I love to be creative with my artwork and have customers who really want to buy my work. Rachel has sold some paintings for almost $700. She has painted a mural of a mother elephant with her baby elephant in a preschool nursery. She has been commissioned to do some logos for a major sports facility in Massachusetts. And she's just doing really, really well with her artwork. Next slide, please. I'm going to show you some more folks too, which here they are. So on the left is Jack. Jack is 18 years old, and his business is candles. And the name of his business is Mr. C's Old Time Scents. Jack says it's never a bad idea to try something new and to go out for something you are good at and passionate about. Jack has autism. And when he first started with our project, as does many people, you know, people are not accustomed to carrying their head high and looking at you directly and having a lot of self-confidence. When Jack first came into the program, he was not had his head down and wasn't too confident. Now Jack is part of our Speakers Bureau. You can see right there how proud he is. Look at his face. And those are all of his candles and room sprays, which he has done really well with. He and his mom own that business, and they're out there at a variety of different outside marketplaces all over the state of Rhode Island. On the right is Rebecca Beaton. So Rebecca always wanted to produce her own greeting cards, and she's been doing that business for a number of years. But what we were able to help Becca with was to buy a better printer and to help her to redesign the cards so that they had kind of a 3D component to it. And as you can see, she's got a head stick over there, and she uses that head stick with the keyboard to actually produce and edit the cards and to type in the sentiment, which is in the center of the card. It might take her 4 hours to do one card. But you know what? That's her passion. That's what she loves. She's so proud of her greeting cards. And now she sells them. She's got her own website, her own Facebook page, and she sells them all over in packets for various holidays, various occasions, and she'll custom make a card for you. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the benefits of entrepreneurial education, and I think it's a significant community impact, is clearly this is meaningful, customized employment. I think it's the best example of person-centered planning that I can think of, because they are in charge. They're designing what this process is and how they want to spend their time with respect to their business. There's obviously civic identity and economic inclusion here. People are part of our workforce and recognized as valid business owners. We're getting stories in newspapers about these folks. We've been in Providence Business News, which is our one and only major, we're a small state, one and only major newspaper where people, Deb has been in there, where people's stories have been included within that newspaper. Entrepreneurial education offers a lifelong learning process that's great for people, even young people. We're talking now with some students in transition in high school to get them to be a part of entrepreneurial education. It's teaching team building, creative thinking, communication skills, public speaking, problem solving, money management, and obviously leadership skills. Next slide, please. So what we have is we have a business development series of 8 classes. People go through the classes, and the classes teach things like how to write an elevator pitch, how to write a business plan, how to market your business, who your target market is. So there's 8 different classes that are part of the business development series. And then we have individual business technical assistance and support from the people that actually teach the classes. The people that teach the classes are people who come from our Small Business Administration or Veterans Business Outreach Center. They are business leaders that know that particular topic. So they teach the class, and they offer individualized technical assistance to anybody that goes through the program. We have a weekly entrepreneurs forum on Thursday afternoons that people can pop in on to help kind of fine tune their skills. We offer mini grants of up to $2,500 for people to be able to go out to purchase the things that they need for their business, whether it's equipment, supplies, materials. And then we have a PR director. We have a woman on our team, Deb Wood, who owns her own communications agency in Rhode Island. She handles all of our publicity. So there's been radio announcements, there's been TV shows, people have been on TV shows. We've been in PBN, Providence Business News. We've been in, when I say we, I'm talking about Sheila, Deb, local newspaper stories, and that's what helps promote people and their businesses. I think this model that we have is something that can be really replicated by any state. It's not a lot of money. Next slide, please. So what we offer each individual is they also get a staff mentor. And I have 4 people that are staff mentors. It's myself, it's Sheila, who you're going to hear from in a few minutes, Claudia Lowe, and Karen Kafagna, whose son is Jack. So we're all assigned to the new students that come into a series. We have about 15 people for each series. And then they get the one-to-one business support, which I said, the mini grant. We complete a business portfolio for each person that graduates from the program, and it has everything in there: their elevator pitch, their everything, their business plan, all of that stuff. There's a speakers bureau and all sorts of opportunities for people to get additional support. And the next slide before we move on to Deb, just real briefly. As I said, we're funded by the Department of Labor and Training. Our grant is $125,000 annually. We have a little bit of money that's put in by the DD Council. And obviously the long-term support comes from state VR and state developmental disabilities. And in Rhode Island, we have another support that's called self-directed supports, which people can hire their own staff, utilize the annual allocation from the state, from DD, to be able to hire their own staff for individualized assistance and business development. So that's an overview of our project. I want to now turn it over to Deb and have Deb talk all about her business with her son, Jason.
Hi, everybody. Myself and my wonderful, beautiful, severely autistic son, Jason, own a company called We Be Jammin'. We Be Jammin' was formed in 2014. And a quick little background, both my husband, Jason's dad, and myself own multiple companies. And so as Jason was going through the special education system, we knew that we were going to do self-directed care for him probably at about age 11. We knew that, that soon. We knew that the programs that were out there didn't appear to be a good fit. Jason's predominantly nonverbal, except when he really, really wants something, and then he manages to find the words. And so it was just, what was that going to be? What were we going to do with him? Jason's also tactily defensive, so he's very picky about what he will put in his mouth. And so we quickly realized that if we put jelly on toast, that he would eat it. And I said, there we go. Italian and Portuguese, that boy is going to have jam, and we are going to sell jam. Now, where are we going to sell jam? Where are we going to get the jam? How are we going to do this? So I went to my sisters and said, okay, you're older than me. Give me the recipes that my grandmother used, and let's make this boy some jam. Well, we did that, and we said, okay, now where are we going to sell them? How do we do this? And we looked into farmers markets, and because he didn't have all the licensing and all those things that were necessary, the door was closed. And I said, well, that's not going to happen either. So when opportunity doesn't knock, you build a new door. And so his mother started her own farmers market. And now we make the rules. And he is now a wonderful show promoter, and he promotes farmers markets and runs events with myself. And he has his own dedicated team throughout the city of Warwick, which has become great. And what that has offered him, he will, he's turned very gracious. He's like the mayor. He tips his hat to people. He'll sign and speak at the same time and say, thank you and enjoy. He'll also say, come again. And so what we do is we concentrate on the parts that he can do, not the parts he can't do. Because there are many things he can't do, but there's more that he can do. He's become a little bit of a celebrity for himself. He can't tell you what the jams are made out of. He can't even tell you how much the jars weigh. He can tell, if myself or my team kind of jump in and say the jam is $7, he'll say, money, please. Money, please. So he's figured out that the money part is his, which he likes. And the money, although he can't understand denominations, the money is a motivator for him. By taking the classes that were offered, I thought as a business owner that I had it pretty much going on. And I quickly found out, no, I didn't have it going on. I had it going on for what I did, not for what Jason was doing and what he needed. Through a grant, we were able to take his business to the next level.
Hey, Deb, do you want to tell Joe to advance the slides, though?
Oh, Joe, advance the slide.
Yeah.
Oh, there we are. Hey,
yeah.
Great. Okay, so there are some of our products. We now, we're actually way past 75, we're at 85 products. The other slide is one of the events that we ran. Jason's actually behind me. This was actually run during COVID. So we put on the event, we were COVID compliant, and we actually had the blessing of our governor to keep e-commerce going. So that particular event actually had 3,000 people in 8 hours. We specialize in having small businesses. Some are, one of the events that we're running coming up is all of the businesses are women owned. It's a Mother's Day event, so that will be coming up. And at each of the events, we offer to the council for individuals with disabilities to come and set up to give it a try. Listen, if you're going to fail, you're going to fail with those of us that are the best at what we do. So we're here to pick you up and keep you going and give you the opportunity and then give you the learning curve to say, what could I have done different and what do I need next time? And, this sort of thing. Advance the slide, please. Okay. So when we started the company, I quickly said, well, this won't work if we're going to be outside on a farm running the farmer's market. So we had a custom Jason shed created, and those are some of his products that are on the all along the wall. And we very quickly grew out of that as well. And went into the brick and mortar. So now we have the actual storefront. And he's able to be busy 6 days a week, just like his mom and dad. And more important, we made it a requirement. We do self-directed care, so we hire his team. His team took the classes along with him, and they're right out there supporting his business, marketing his business, getting him set up, helping him with everything that he needs. And as a team, we're all responsible for his success. But next slide, please. Let's see what else we can tell you. We've covered some of this. One of the things that we have also done is we learned in the class, we didn't know enough to get the word out there that we were a social enterprise small business. And what we have done and what we continue to do is take a portion of our proceeds and we support 2 of the local community canine units. And my reason for choosing the canine units is, again, with Jason being predominantly nonverbal, and he does have a watch, if you will, that is a tracking device. So should he separate from staff or wander, which is possible, each of the municipalities have a device that can track him. I always felt that they always sent in the canine first to find individuals that are lost or walk away. So just as a family, we felt that that was an important area. He's been very lucky. He has met the dogs in both communities. He's no longer, he's not afraid. My biggest concern was always, as a parent, what if something happened? What if we were in an accident? What if he can't tell someone his name? I didn't want him to be afraid of the police, but more importantly, I wanted the police to know how to respond to an individual like Jason, that if they told him to stop, he wouldn't stop. He doesn't even know what they're saying. So he's developed quite a wonderful relationship with both departments. I think they've learned from him and he's learned from them. Next slide, please. Put it up. There we go. So welcome to We Be Jammin'. That's the front of our little store that we have. Not only do we have all of his products on display, but we also have space that we allocate at no charge for individuals with disabilities who want to put their products in our store for sale. So we do that as well. Next slide, please.
Nope, that's it.
Oh, that's it.
Yep. No, well, I don't think you covered the stuff that's on the slide. Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Advice.
Advice. I have a lot of advice. So I can tell you, as a family, Jason would not succeed if he did not have support. Now, where can that support come from? It can come from families. It can come from an agency. It can come from staff. It can come from a neighbor. It can come from anywhere. The important part is that they need support. It's not an easy task to start a business and get it up and running. Some families say, I don't know what my child or what my son or my daughter or my niece or my nephew, I don't know what they can do. We can help with that. I can narrow it down for you with what you could do in a 15-minute conversation. Agencies need to step up. Quick story, when Jason was in school, every day they gave him a printout sheet that had blocks. And the blocks had the Dollar Tree, McDonald's, fast food, some stores. And every day they would say to him, Jason, where do you want to work? He didn't even know what that meant. And although he could identify the symbol for McDonald's, he didn't know what work meant. As far as he knew, to get money, you just ask mom. You say, Mom, monies. And so that's what works in his world. It still works to today. And ironically, in that sheet, every day they moved the blocks all around, and they would put one of our companies, which is Wood Boat and Motor, and they would put that on there. And in Jason's world, Wood Boat and Motor is called Daddy's Shop. Well, when he left the program, as he aged out at the age of 21, and they kept saying, we're not certain what he can do, Debbie. He's limited. We're not sure how he's going to get a job. And I said, well, what about that sheet that you send home every day that Jason would make a circle? He got that, make the circle, but it didn't really mean anything. Well, I want you to know, from the age of 12 until 21, that child never did select working with mom and dad. And all he would do was just make a random circle. So they couldn't even tell me what kind of job I should be getting. So I think that I think it could start as early as 10, 11, 12. Try to zero in these agencies and classrooms on what is the child or what is the person interested in. You can take that of what they're interested in, find an item. They may not be able to create the item. Jason can't make the jam, but you can find a way. You just have to start knocking down the barriers. Find what it is they like and try it. You're going to fail. We've all failed. I've had 5 kinds of jams that didn't work. It'll happen. But then when they start to see success and they've sold something, they become a whole different individual. It's like hitting Powerball. It's just the best. So for our family, as well as others, the self-directed care was crucial. The classes were crucial, and self-employment gives my son, even through COVID, the best life that he can have. I couldn't have asked for anything better. So I am more than pleased and willing to help anybody at any time, because I think you should try it. If you don't try it, you don't know. But you need support.
And I just want to say, so I skimmed over on a previous slide. So we run an annual event called Small Business Saturday Shop RI, which is on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And it's an event that we created to help bring some publicity to small businesses within Rhode Island. We rent out a huge hotel, and we've been doing it for 4 years. In our 3rd year prior to COVID, we had 150 businesses. They rent a table, they sell their products. So we had 150 businesses, 25 were people with disabilities, and the rest were local entrepreneurs and small businesses. We had tons of publicity about this event. American Express started the initiative of Small Business Saturday nationally to draw attention on small businesses after Thanksgiving. While people are out shopping at big department stores or shopping online, what about small businesses? So we thought creatively and came up with this idea of, okay, we'll create a pop-up mall, which is what it is, and it's a 1-day event. And in our 3rd year prior to COVID, we had over 3,500 people come to that event. And I just want to say, Debbie and Jason Wood were our all-time biggest sales of the day. With Deb, you want to tell them how much you did in that 1 day of sales?
5,800.
Wow.
Yeah. 5,000. They beat every other business that was there. Number 1 business in terms of sales for the day, which is absolutely fabulous. And the other thing about Deb's business or Jason's business is all of those sauces and salsas, which are fabulous, by the way. Go online and buy them. You're going to love them. They're all the same price. She makes it nice and easy, $7, $8. That's it. So, it's easy for the staff to to work with Jason and be able to process all that stuff. And the sauces and the jams are really outstanding. Thank you very much, Deb. And now we'll turn it over to the second powerhouse, my buddy, Sheila Coyne, and we'll start with you, Sheila.
All right. First, I just want to say thank you to Sue publicly, because if it wasn't for the initiative she started in Rhode Island, and now I hear thank you, Doug, too, because if it wasn't for Doug, you wouldn't have told Sue. Michael and I wouldn't be able to share our story because unlike Deb, my family didn't have a background in entrepreneurship. I'm a retired correctional officer. My husband's a retired police officer. We've always worked. I have another son that's 6 months older than Michael who always worked. So I didn't have that scope like Deb had, knowing when Michael was 10 or 11 that we would be doing this, because I took for granted that Michael, like everyone else, would grow up and work. So it hit me like a ton of bricks after his 2nd or 3rd year of applying for positions that he had done during school services, he had volunteered for, and when he didn't find employment, we were like, oh my God, oh my goodness. It's not really what I said, but we'll say, oh my goodness. So we made our own road, and I honed in on what Michael liked, what his gifts were, and that's how our story starts. So if you don't have a business background, or you have no idea where to begin, rest assured, I'm with you. We had no idea. So I went from working the block at the prison to saying, okay, Michael, let's go open our own store. What do you like best? So that's how our story starts. And if it wasn't for Sue in this initiative, we wouldn't have the knowledge, the experience, and the networking that we've experienced. So thank you, Sue. So next slide, please. So about our business. So Michael really wanted to, we weren't sure about coffee at first. I'm going to be honest with you. We talked about it. We thought about a bunch of things. We decided on the coffee shop because I love the idea of what a small coffee shop brings to a community. People come in, they chit chat, they sit down, they share stories, maybe grab, the local paper. So for me, it was a great fit because we use this word, quotes, right? Community. I've used that word so much in the last 5 years. I'm tired of it, but it brought Michael to the community and it brought the community into our lives. And best decision we've ever made. Michael's made friendships that are real, that are genuine, that he did on his own. So we're a family-owned coffee shop. We say that we serve up more than a cup of coffee. We serve a cup of inclusion. We employ people with developmental disabilities. We encourage community engagement. And we really, truly want to change the way the world sees those with disabilities. We learned quickly through the classes we were taking that Michael wanted food service and this was the business he wanted, but a lot of his peers made things, like if you see on the bottom there, that's Rachel Rasnick that we spoke of earlier. She's great. She's an artist. She's got a wonderful product, but then it's not always easy for these guys to find a place to sell what they make. So we split ours into a coffee shop and a retail store where these Michael's peers, and it's people with and without disabilities. We're I think we're about 50-50 right now. And we have a gift shop called the Budding Violet because my grandparents were Bud and Buy. And that's where people sell handmade products. And it's a really good fit with the coffee shop because we get to order a latte and then go browse around. Next slide, please. Why self-employment is important. So before I go on, if you guys could look at these two pictures, because I wouldn't need to speak. If you just see what these two, the story this tells. The picture on the top, if you look under that green blob, is Michael in his day program. And a staff person sent this to me, and it's on Snapchat, so it's like a text message with a picture. And what it says is when your staff doesn't show, so you just go back to bed. So that's what happened with Michael. He had no staff person at the center that day, so he spent the day laying on the table. That's Michael. Oh my God, I get like almost teary-eyed looking at him. He's something. So if you could just see how he's grown, how his confidence has improved. Anyway, I can't look at him anymore. He's a doll. So he searched for wage employment for 2 years, could not find anything. Everyone wanted him to volunteer. He's a big guy. They wanted his muscles, but nobody wanted to pay him. So we did what we did. I know finances, you think, how do I start this? I'm going to share. I'm going to overshare. I cashed in my retirement and I opened this store for Michael because, you know what? If he was going to college, I would have paid it. Mm-hmm. So to me, it wasn't the easiest conversation with my husband, but anyway, it's what we did. So if you could see the difference between that young man in the top photo to where he is now, I got more bang for my buck. I would do it all day, every day. I gave him social opportunities, a sense of pride. to see him go out and be like, oh yeah, I'm a business owner. He's at the register. He does the job. He has support staff. I couldn't ring out a sale if I wanted to. Truly, Michael has done this, but we didn't know if that would happen. But we took a chance, and he has made such great connections. I am thrilled. He is a valued part of his community for sure. Next slide. So the project helped us with the knowledge and the skills to understand how to even open a business, because we had absolutely no idea. We've had networking opportunities. Michael was the first person with a disability to take part in the CWE, which is the Center for Women Enterprise in Rhode Island. They had a retail boot camp. Michael was the first person with a disability to take that, and they had an elevator pitch contest, and Michael came in second. He was a solid second. They didn't give it to him because of his disability. They gave it to him because he did well. And he still has friends from that class that come and visit him in the shop today. So phenomenal. And look at that picture. Isn't he super cute? Next slide.
Sheila, can you just talk a little bit? Joe, could you go back one slide? Can you explain what the Take Your Legislator to Work Day was, that picture at the bottom there?
I can a little. You might have more information on that. It's the APSI. I think that's national, right?
Yes.
So we had Take Your Legislator to Work Day. We had it at the shop. It was a pretty big deal. We had press on that. And what it's done is it lets people, even on the state level, those making decisions with our budgets, have a real good look at what's possible, what's positive, we should all be on the same team here working for. So I always say, let's raise the bar for these guys. It was really, there's nothing better than when you see one of these guys come in. Like, I don't know how it is in Georgia, but in Rhode Island, your state rep, they're a big deal, or they think they're a big deal. So they'll come walking in and they're like, hey, and Michael's chit-chatting, yeah. And they're like, oh, so we're here to see Michael. And Michael's like, yeah, I am Michael. Like, and I'd stand there like, oh my God, can you imagine he can walk and talk and use his hands? So it gives people a different perspective on those with disabilities, because I think all too often people don't realize the benefits and the positive things and what our guys are able to do. There's this preconceived notion that it's the boy in the corner that can't do anything. I mean, there's nothing more inspiring than when you saw Becca with her head stick making her greeting cards. Anytime I've had a bad day, I go back and I say, if Becca can do it, their Crow can do it. So it was a good way to get our legislators a little bit of a glimpse for what we can do. So I'm sure I missed stuff too, but I'm not really big in APSI. All right. Joseph, next, please. So I say raise the bar of what you expect, and our guys will raise the bar and raise their standards. We didn't know. When I tell you, talk about a nervous wreck, I get everything set up. We're opening in the morning. First customer is going to come in. What's Michael going to do? Right? I don't know what Michael's going to do, but when I tell you, he rose to the occasion. We all did our part. And in fact, Michael can't be with me today because he's at the store working. So he works. We were open 7 days a week before COVID. We're now open 5 days a week. He works all 5 days. He never complains. And when you're not sure if you made the right decision, we'll sit around at night and say grace or gratitude or however you want to say it. And it comes to Michael's turn and he says, thank you that I have a job. So that makes it all right for me. So the right supports have to be in place. I think what Deb said was right on. We have to get agencies involved. We have to get ORS involved. I couldn't be here today if Michael didn't have support staff helping him. So right supports are crucial. I believe with all of my heart that every individual has a gift. Just take a little bit of time, learn to know what they like, what makes them tick, and it's worth the investment. If you find what somebody likes, it just takes off on its own. And it's all about meaningful work that the person really enjoys. And I think the good at it part just comes naturally because they love it. It'll give individuals flexibility because Michael likes being his own boss, right? He likes to be able to just sit down when he needs to take a break or, go for a walk if it's not busy around the building. But it gives him some independence. If you can't see that self-confidence, Sue can tell you when she first met him, he didn't look at you that way. He looked down. He wasn't nonverbal, but he wasn't what I would call, quick to talk or overly friendly. Fast forward to today and we can't shut him up. It's just been to see it in action. But they need support, they need patience, they need encouragement, which I think we all need. I couldn't do this business without my mom. My mom does the books because that's what she's good at. And I know there's concerns about SSI and benefits, and I understand that completely, but it's worth learning what your income limits can be and keeping their medical, because we're fairly new, so we're not to that spot yet, but I can see my business growing, and Michael will be making more money than he makes on SSI. So it's definitely, and I hope other states kind of catch on to this because it's really worth the investment. Do I have another slide?
Nope, next slide, Joe. Thank you, Sheila. And I just want to say about Michael, so Michael has been on national news because when their store first opened, Fox News picked it up. And so if you go over to our website, www.riddc.org, you'll find a whole bunch of videos and some of the first videos that were out there of Mike that went viral. It went all over the place, which is really awesome. And he was recently just in the Federal Express's national contest pitching his business. Unfortunately, he didn't make it as a finalist. First prize would have been $50,000, but next year we're going for it. We're going to get it. So the fact that he even competed is really awesome. Just two more slides, I think. So as you can see, with these really awesome moms and really skilled entrepreneurs, Deb has been in the entrepreneurial world all her life, and Sheila just got into it. And they're very successful business women. And family involvement clearly is important, just in any business being successful. So that's really one of the key things that we've learned, as is consistent staff support. So we've had a lot of agencies that have invested in having their staff, as Deb said, go through the training so that they learn all about the business classes and they learn about the components that make a successful business and where the resources are. Clearly, self-directed supports has been an awesome addition because people get to hire who they want, they pay them what they want, and they tell them what they want for support, as opposed to going to a community agency and there's staff turnover and all of those kinds of things. People need to have a diverse business team to help them. No one person can ever do a business by themselves. I owned a restaurant at one point in my life. I had everybody in my family involved in it, as Sheila just said with her mom. You don't do it by yourself. So you bring people onto your team that are people that can do the things that you're not that good at. And that's what we help people with too, putting together a business team that includes those business advisors that I mentioned earlier. We continue to work with Doug on learning about what other states are doing. with self-employment and where are the best practices. We've learned that people need to be flexible. Look at what happened with COVID, right? And so immediately we invested a lot of support for people in figuring out how to use social media to promote their businesses, because that's what everybody was doing, right? Everybody spent more time on the computer in the last year and a half than we ever did in our lives. And so we've really helped people to figure out how to use that to their advantage. And I've mentioned a couple of times about visible PR. We're so fortunate to have local newspapers willing to run the stories on these individual businesses. And people coming back to our forum on Thursday afternoons to just hear from somebody else. Well, what did you do different this week? Or what's going on? Or how could I learn something new to help promote my business? Next slide, please. This is the last slide. So our next step moving forward are we continue to invest in whatever support and assistance we need to help each entrepreneur to be as successful as possible. And we have expanded the project. It now includes people that don't have disabilities. When we first started, the business classes were only for people with developmental disabilities. Now we have people, anybody, and we're going to be listed as a training vendor in the next 2 weeks. I'm so psyched about this, Doug, you don't even know. We're going to be listed as one of the training vendors under the Department of Labor and Training's 100 business job training programs that will be open to any person in the state of Rhode Island, which is really fabulous. We have a big elevator pitch contest coming up as soon as we get through this COVID stuff. We have 12 finalists. First prize is going to be $2,000. So we're really excited about that. We also produce monthly cable TV shows on the different businesses and on different things associated with business development. We have on our website a Rhode Island Business Products and Services Guide, which has over 40 people so far that are included. It's a work in progress. With these individual businesses, what they sell, their Facebook page, their website, or phone number. We're also working on something new with a local chamber of commerce to potentially initiate some contacts of a business within a business, and we're about to kick that off. I mentioned our collaborations with Doug, as well as continue to strengthen the relationships that we already have with the Small Business Administration, Center for Women in Enterprise, the chambers, and other states. We want to create a national coalition on self-employment. We've been talking with some help from Doug, talking to about 8 states so far. We want everybody to jump on board with this. This is so cool for people. And why won't, let's just do it. So anybody that's interested can let us know and join our learning community of how we can, build this and make it even better for people. Our Small Business Saturday Shop RI is coming up this November. I think it's November 30th. We are sold out. We have 154 businesses, I think. We just expanded to 2 more rooms over at the Crown Plaza, but we're sold out. And a big thing for us is researching options for funding sustainability. The Department of Labor and Training funds will not be forever. And we really feel that this should be a project that is funded year after year after year. And so our goal is to obtain financial sustainability. So we're working on that. And lastly, to just continue to build this self-employment business incubator for entrepreneurs that are interested in business development. And the next slide has all of our contact information, our names and email addresses, and our personal cell phones. So feel free to give any of us a call or shoot us off an email. And please shop not only at I was just going to read your email, Deb, at Weeby Jammin', but also at Red, White, and Brew and the Budding Violet. Excellent websites, all 3 of those businesses, and you'll see all sorts of really cool creative stuff within each of their locations. And that's it for our presentation.
We have put so much in the chat. If you have not been able to look over here, guys, Joseph's put the self-employment stories links to the two businesses, websites, all that over there. And I think, from the best I can tell, we have answered all the questions. I think there's just one that came in real early. It was someone saying, how do you support, I think it's a 13 or 14-year-old who just seems to have an entrepreneurial spirit already. She's doing a lot of things. She is in special education. That doesn't seem to be her favorite place to be, but she is constantly creating content, as her mother says. So I think this is from moms, 13 or 14-year-old who's got an entrepreneurial spirit. What advice can you give the parents?
Deb or Sheila, what do you guys have to say to that?
Run with it. Storm the castle. Let's do it. It doesn't matter if she wants to buy bows for her hair or make bows for her hair. Get some.
Yeah.
Sell them to anybody that'll listen. Show them to everyone. Put them on Facebook. Put them out there. Ask the local churches or wherever there are any events going on. Say, she's a student. Could she possibly put her product out for sale? Get it out there. Let it take off. Let it grow. Run. Send some to Sheila. She can put them in the store.
Yeah.